What if I told you that the most breathtaking beaches on the planet aren't hidden somewhere in the Maldives or Thailand? They're right here in Europe. White sand that squeaks under your feet. Water so clear you can count the fish 20 feet below you. Dramatic cliffs dropping straight into the sea. And sunsets that make you forget your own name. Today, we're going on a journey. From the rugged coastline of Portugal all the way to the crystalline lagoons of Greece. We're counting down the best beaches in Europe, the ones that belong on your bucket list, the ones that will absolutely ruin every other beach for you forever. Let's go! If you've ever scrolled through travel, Instagram, and thought, that cannot be a real place, there's a very good chance you were looking at Praia de Marinha. Tucked into the dramatic Algarve coastline in southern Portugal, this beach is the kind of place that makes photographers cry. Here's what makes it extraordinary. The rock formations. Towering golden limestone cliffs frame the beach on every side, carved over millions of years by the Atlantic into arches, sea caves, and natural grottos. The water below is a surreal shade of turquoise, almost tropical, which feels completely impossible given that you're on the Atlantic coast of Europe. Getting down to the beach itself is part of the experience. You descend a narrow wooden staircase cut into the cliffside, and with every step, the view opens up more. By the time you hit the sand, you feel like you've earned it. And you have. The beach itself is small, which is exactly the point. It never gets overwhelmingly crowded, and the natural rock formations create private little alcoves where you can lay out your towel and feel like the whole place belongs to you. The snorkeling here is remarkable. The clarity of the water means you can explore the underwater caves and rock tunnels just off the shore. Best time to visit, May through early July, before the peak summer crowds arrive. Parking fills up fast, so get there early, before 10 in the morning if you can. And bring water shoes. The rocks getting in and out of the water are worth it, but they will remind you they're there. Praia da Marinha regularly tops lists of the most beautiful beaches in all of Europe. Having stood on that sand and looked back up at those cliffs, I can tell you, every single ranking is justified. Crete is the largest of the Greek islands, and it contains multitudes. Ancient Minoan ruins, labyrinthine old towns, mountains that reach down to the sea, and in its southwestern corner, something genuinely unlike anywhere else on Earth. Elafonissi. What makes Elafonissi immediately unmistakably different is the color of the sand. It's pink, not a gentle blush, pink that you have to squint to see. A real, visible, rose-tinted pink that comes from millions of crushed seashells and coral fragments mixed into the fine white sand. Standing on this beach feels like stepping into a painting someone made while they were extremely happy. But the sand is just the beginning. Elafonissi is technically an island separated from the Cretan mainland by a shallow lagoon that you can wade across. The water barely reaches your knees. This lagoon is warm, perfectly calm, and impossibly clear. It's the kind of water you'd design if you were building the perfect beach from scratch. The area is a protected nature reserve, which means the ecosystem here has been carefully preserved. You'll find rare plants growing on the dunes, and the shallow water shelter marine life you simply won't see on busier, less protected shores. The beach is large enough that even in peak July and August, you can find your own stretch of that extraordinary pink sand. The sunsets here, with the pink shore and the golden light and the sea turning purple, are something you will think about for the rest of your life. To get there from Chania, it's about an hour and a half by car through some of the most dramatic mountain scenery in the Mediterranean. That drive alone is worth the trip. Some places are famous because they're beautiful. Navagio is famous because it looks like it shouldn't exist. Also known as Shipwreck Beach, Navagio sits inside a sheer-walled cove on the northwest coast of Zakynthos, also called Zante, one of the Ionian Islands. The cliffs surrounding it are vertical, white limestone, rising hundreds of feet straight out of the sea. The water in the cove is electric blue. The sand is white. And in the middle of the beach, half buried and rusting, lies the wreck of a ship called the Panagiotis, a smuggling vessel that ran aground here in 1980. The combination is simply unreal. It looks like a movie set. It looks like the desktop wallpaper of someone with exceptionally good taste. Every year, millions of people see photos of Navagio and immediately add it to their bucket list. Here is the thing about Navagio that makes it even more compelling. You can only get there by boat. There is no road, no path, no staircase down the cliffs. The only way to stand on that sand is to come by sea. Boat tours depart regularly from the town of Portoromi and the main port of Zakynthos, and the boat ride itself, coming around the headland and suddenly seeing those cliffs opening up before you, is an experience worth paying for on its own. The most dramatic view of Navagio isn't actually from the beach. It's from the cliff lookout above. There's a viewing platform at the top of the northern cliff, and the panorama from up there, looking down into that impossible blue cove with the rusting ship in the center, is genuinely one of the great views in the world. Visit in the shoulder season, May or September, for calmer conditions and fewer boats in the cove. The water is still warm, the light is still perfect, and you'll have more space to actually swim. There is a beach in the Balearic Islands where the water is so clear that scientists have used it as a reference point for transparency studies. That beach is Ses Illetes on the small island of Formentera, and it has become the answer to a question people ask every summer. Where in Europe can you find Caribbean quality water? Here. The answer is here. Formentera sits just a short ferry ride south of Ibiza, but the two islands couldn't feel more different. Where Ibiza is synonymous with parties and clubs, Formentera is slow, quiet, and fiercely protective of its natural environment. The island has strict regulations on development and on the number of vehicles allowed. The result is a coastline that feels almost completely untouched. Ses Illetes stretches along a narrow spit of land at the island's northern tip. On one side, the open sea. On the other, a shallow lagoon protected by a sandbar. The water in both directions is that particular shade of blue-green that you associate with somewhere far more tropical. And the clarity is almost disorienting. You can see the sea floor in 15 feet of water as clearly as you can see the palm of your hand. The beach is anchored by a handful of beach clubs and restaurants where you can spend a long, slow afternoon eating fresh seafood and watching the light change on the water. It's the kind of place that rewards doing absolutely nothing. Getting to Formentera is part of the charm. You fly into Ibiza, then take a ferry across, about 30 minutes on the fast boat. The moment you step off and feel the pace of the island slow you down, you'll understand why people come back here year after year. Croatia's coastline is one of the most celebrated in Europe, and along its entire Dalmatian stretch, one beach stands above all others in terms of sheer geographical strangeness and beauty. Zlatni Rat, which translates from Croatian as Golden Cape, on the island of Brač. What makes Zlatni Rat unique is that it moves. The beach is a long, tapered spit of white pebble and shingle that extends into the sea, and its tip, the Golden Cape itself, shifts direction depending on the currents and the winds. The beach physically changes shape. Photographs taken a year apart can look like entirely different places. It has fascinated geographers, artists, and travelers for centuries. The water on both sides of the cape is crystal clear and changes from pale turquoise in the shallows to deep sapphire further out. The surrounding pine forest comes right down to the beach, providing shade that's genuinely rare on the Dalmatian coast. The combination of white pebbles, bright water, and dark pines is visually extraordinary. Zlatni Rat is a windsurfer's paradise. The shifting winds that reshape the beach are also perfect for the sport, but it works just as well for swimmers, snorkelers, and anyone who simply wants to stare at an impossibly beautiful piece of coastline for several hours. The nearest town is Bol, one of the most charming villages on the entire Croatian coast, with stone architecture, excellent restaurants, and a relaxed, unhurried atmosphere. Stay in Bol for a few days, walk to Zlatni Rat in the morning before the day trippers arrive, and you'll understand why the Croatian coast has become one of Europe's most beloved destinations. You want drama. You want a beach that makes you feel small in the most wonderful way. You want Myrtos. Kefalonia is the largest of the Ionian Islands, and it's home to what many consider the single most visually dramatic beach in all of Greece. And Greece sets a very high bar. Myrtos sits at the base of a steep, pine-covered hillside, enclosed on either side by massive white limestone cliffs. The contrast between the vivid green of the hillsides, the blinding white of the cliffs and the pebbles, and the intense, almost unnatural blue of the water is something that photographs genuinely cannot prepare you for. You drive down to Myrtos on a winding road that reveals the beach in stages. First, just a flash of blue between the mountains, then the full panorama as you come around a curve, and then you're just standing there, not moving, forgetting to breathe. The sea at Myrtos is cold. It's open water with deep channels nearby. But that cold is part of the experience. The color of deep, cold, clear Mediterranean water is a specific kind of blue that you don't find in shallower, warmer spots. It's intense. It's almost electric. Swimming in it feels like diving into a gemstone. The beach is pure white pebble, and the cliffs behind it make it feel like a natural amphitheater. Come in the morning for the best light, stay through midday if you can bear the heat, and make sure you look back up the hill as you leave. That view, the cliffs, the water, the whole composition, is one you'll be trying to describe to people for the rest of your life. Some beaches reward effort. Cala Goloritzé rewards serious effort, and then it pays you back with something so beautiful you'll forget how hard it was to get there. Located on the eastern coast of Sardinia in the Gulf of Orozai, a protected marine area, Cala Goloritzé is accessible only by boat or by a 2-hour hike through the Supermonte mountain forest. There are no roads. There is no infrastructure. There is just a narrow path through dramatic limestone landscape that eventually opens up onto a beach of white pebbles and chalk, blue water framed by a towering rock needle, called the Aguglia, that climbs 128 meters above the sea and is considered one of the finest rock climbing destinations in the Mediterranean. The water here is the kind of clear that you see in documentaries about coral reefs. Underwater, the rock formations continue, arches, caves, and tunnels that make this one of the premier snorkeling and diving locations in all of Italy. The entire Gulf of Orozai is protected, which means the marine life is abundant and undisturbed in a way that's become genuinely rare in the Mediterranean. A UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1995, Cala Goloritzé represents what European coastlines can look like when human development is kept far enough away. It is remote, demanding, and absolutely worth it. Take the boat from Cala Goloritzé for the easiest access. Bring everything you need. There are no facilities on the beach itself. And bring a good camera. Or just accept that nothing you capture will do justice to standing there. Lampedusa is not where most people think of when they think of Italy. It's a small island, closer to Tunisia than to Sicily, sitting alone in the middle of the Mediterranean. But Spiaggia dei Conigli, Rabbit Beach, has been ranked the most beautiful beach in the world. Not in Europe, in the world. The lagoon at Rabbit Beach is protected by a small offshore island, Rabbit Island itself, which creates a natural enclosure of extraordinarily calm, shallow water. The color of this water is the pale, luminous turquoise of a swimming pool lit from below. The sand is white and fine. The setting sun turns the whole scene gold and pink. The beach is also a protected nesting site for loggerhead sea turtles, which means access is carefully managed. Certain areas are off limits during nesting season, and the natural environment is actively protected. This stewardship has kept Rabbit Beach in a state of near pristine beauty that is becoming rarer every year along European coastlines. Getting to Lampedusa requires a flight from mainland Italy or Sicily, or a long ferry crossing. But travelers who make the journey consistently describe it as one of the best decisions they've ever made. This is Europe at its most unexpected, most unspoiled, most extraordinary. Not every great beach is easy to find on a map. Stiniva is tucked into the southern coast of the island of Vis, one of the furthest inhabited islands from the Croatian mainland, and reached through a narrow gap in the cliffs so thin that you squeeze through sideways, emerging suddenly into a hidden cove of pebbles and transparent water ringed on all sides by steep stone walls. Stiniva feels like a secret. The cliffs enclose it so completely that you can only see a strip of open sky directly above. The water fills the cove in shades from pale mint to deep cobalt. The acoustic strangeness of being inside those rock walls makes conversations feel hushed, private, dreamlike. The island of Vis itself was closed to foreign visitors until 1989. It served as a military base during the Yugoslav period, which means it developed far more slowly than the rest of the Dalmatian coast. The result is an island that feels genuinely undiscovered even now. With authentic stone villages, excellent local wine, and a coastline where you can still find stretches of shore with no one on them. Vis became internationally famous when Mamma Mia! Here We Go Again was filmed there in 2018. But Stiniva was remarkable long before the cameras arrived, and it remains remarkable now. We end in France, or more specifically, on the island that is French but feels like something else entirely. Corsica. Wild, mountainous, fiercely independent in character, and home to some of the finest beaches in the entire Mediterranean. Palombaggia is Corsica at its absolute best. A long curve of fine, pale sand sheltered by a fringe of umbrella pines, looking out over water that transitions from pale green in the shallows to the deepest possible shade of blue in the distance. The pine trees come right to the edge of the sand, creating a fragrant, sun-dappled margin between the forest and the sea that's completely unique to this island. The beach is oriented to catch the late afternoon sun perfectly. The light in the hours before sunset here is the kind of warm, honeyed Mediterranean light that photographers and painters chase their entire careers. The surrounding coastline, part of the Alta Rocca natural region, is protected and largely undeveloped, giving Palombaggia a feeling of space and solitude even in July. Ajaccio, the island's capital and Napoleon's birthplace, is about an hour's drive north. But save the history for another day. When you're at Palombaggia, stay until the sun drops behind the mountains and the stars come out and the water goes dark, and you realize, as you absolutely will, that you found one of the most beautiful places in Europe. 10 beaches. 10 reasons to pack your bag right now and point yourself toward the sea. From the pink sands of Elafonissi to the hidden cove of Stiniva, from the shipwrecked shore of Navagio to the pine-fringed paradise of Palombaggia, Europe is not done surprising you. Not even close. If you've been to any of these beaches, tell us in the comments which one left the biggest mark. And if there's a beach in Europe you think we missed, because there are hundreds of extraordinary ones we didn't cover today, drop it below. We read every single comment. Subscribe if you want more of this. More beauty, more coastline, more places that make you feel like the world is bigger and more wonderful than you remembered. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Until next time, the sea is waiting.